Summon in his Dark Lord.
Pentagram and the show is just that this is a kids show on Cartoon Network is just mind-boggling.
Dude. All right. Well, let's get back to Hex. We're getting a little off subject here. It's hard not to when you're nerding out about things you love, though. People are asking if there's going to be any offline capability for the game.
No. At most, there'll be some management features, but card security and the integrity and security of the game is very important, so a lot of it lives server-side. And so, no, I don't envision that there's much of anything that lives offline.
Nice. All right, let's see. Here we go. I don't think there are going to be any Adventure Time themed cards in the game. That is one of the questions. No. Let's see. Here we had a good one. It's so tough. People keep chiming in. It's tough to follow everything. Yes. Wow. For the Pro Tier tournament, is for each set release or one time for set one?
That's one time. But originally I was going to have one big tournament, but because there were so many, I never expected this level of success for the Kickstarter. I didn't think we would sell out of any tier, much less 1,000 of a Pro Player tier and the Grand King. Like, it's crazy. So what we're actually going to do is break the tournaments into smaller. So you'll be assigned to a pod, basically, and we're going to run multiple tournaments. And so your chances of winning have gone up because now you'll be competing probably against 200 people as opposed to all 2,000. No, this is not a free win every card in the game tournament happening with every set. It's for the first set.
Let's see. Bruce T wants to know, will you be able to draft with 3 boosters from the current set, or will drafts follow the normal 2-1 or 1-1-1 format?
No, it'll follow the normal format. Draft is very important to us. It's something that we have a lot of passion for, and so we're building all of the sets to work for draft. What the makeup of each individual pack is and how it represents the set through a common, uncommon, rare. And so, no, it will follow your standard mixed of, whatever the block is currently.
Nice.
When it's all one pack, that's fun in the beginning of a block because you can sometimes catch hey, I got 5 copies of this one broken common, which is fun. It's cool, but that is not the best long-term draft experience. Nice. I remember drafting 8 copies of Rancor, during one of the Magic pre-releases. And I was like, whoa, that was funny, but in the end, if that was the experience all the time, that would be pretty miserable.
Let's see. Multani 1141 wants to know, will we have to travel to a world tournament or play from our devices?
You'll be playing most of our large tournaments, or if not all of them, will be from the device. It'll be this is a digital culture built around our esports. That said, we potentially would put on some live events too. We attend a lot of things like PAX and Gen Con and Comic Con, and so there's a very good chance that we would put on live events as well. But those potentially may be things you qualify for through the online game, and then it becomes kind of just a cool thing that you can show up and play in this big tournament that you qualify for with some neat prizes. And then it's more specifically about it being live than it is about it being part of our standard tournament structure or a requirement to be part of our standard tournament structure.
All right. Everybody's begging for the next stretch goal. I don't think it's going to happen, guys. Will you be able to interact with your decks by mobile or web interfaces, building, changing, and checking out cards in your collection? Well, it's going to have there's going to be a mobile version of the game, right?
Yeah. So you'd be able to, just through your mobile device. Whether or not we have web support for some of that stuff, we've talked about it. It'd be neat if we could build an API that would allow you to build decks or look at your collection through a web portal. It's something we would like to do, but again, that's pretty expensive to build all that out. But my hope is that the game is very successful, and then all of this stuff becomes what do you imagine the most rabid fan of a game and played it for 5 hours plus a day and loved it to death, and that was who was running the game? That's pretty much the methodology here.
Nice. Let's see. Do you guys have a format for the pro tournaments yet?
Yeah, we have the preliminary plans in place, but we're still figuring everything out. This is a big deal. This is a big part of knowing how many people are actually going to be in the tournaments, and there's a lot of logistical and pretty minutia-ish sort of data points that we have to, get a grasp on before we can figure out how we do invites to specific online tournaments for our, our high-end, tournaments. So there's There's still some stuff to work out, but we've been working on that for quite a while, but I'm not ready to announce what that is yet. That's a big deal. That's something that we're going to have. I'd also like to have the format of how we announce that, like the layout of that information to be done really slick so that people really get a good idea about how they can, like, what does ranking mean, and how do I bring up my ranking? What does that qualify me for, and what are the perks? And there's lots of sort of dials we can turn with that, and I don't want to be just throwing something out there. We're going to take a lot of time to build out, to make it as robust and exciting as experience as possible.
Nice. Will you be able to have one copy of the same card in multiple decks throughout your deck builder, or do you have to have multiple cards? All right. Cool. Let's see. House Hassel wants to know, can we play raid quests and dungeon multiple times to acquire the same loot over and over with the same champion?
Yes.
There you go.
You're easy.
All right. As far as the stack and priority, are you able to act and retain priority?
No. If I'm understanding the question right, once you've made a decision, you cannot back up that decision.
Yeah.
That would be terrible.
You've already clicked the "Are you sure?" Y and button and picked Y by that point. I would imagine.
Yeah. No, this is a standard. Like for digital TCGs, that would be a massive problem. You have to be able to turn the turn back over to the other person. And so, at what point is it yes? Are you sure? Yes. Are you positive? Yes. And then it goes. They have to get it back so they can start doing their turn. So anytime you would have like, oh no, I didn't mean that. I mean, it creates a giant issue.
Dude, let's see. Will it be possible to play Commander-style format? That is what Mr. Chi wants to know.
It's not currently built in, but again, like all of these formats that are popular are great sort of like, it's easy enough for us to look at what's popular and try to figure out how we build it into our game. The question becomes, how do we build it into our game and make it better? So that's the part where with a lot of this stuff, it's going to be, what can we do to make the digital piece, make it more fun? And so I think that there's a chance that you're going to see pretty much all of the most popular things out there, but with a digital twist.
There we go. All right. And let's see, will you be able to practice against a deck you built yourself with AI?
Yes, absolutely. Really, what you can do is if you build a deck, you can jump into any dungeon and just play against the AI in the dungeon, but we do have skirmishing against AI as well.
Beautiful. All right. And let's see, guys, keep the questions coming. In the meantime, Bobby, you got anything you want to...
Yeah, I do have a question. So you guys are also making, physical games. Like, you just launched, like, the Hobbit one pretty recently. How is it balancing the team that are still putting stuff out there and putting out and working on Hex right now? What's the balance in the office right now?
Well, we have a nice pool of designers, and so we have a bunch of designers. We have people who are assigned to certain types of projects. Matt Hyra actually is in charge of the board game group, and so we work with the outside, like Reiner Knizia actually designed the Hobbit board game. Reiner Knizia is one of the most famous board game designers in the world, and so that was, we hired him to make that game for us. So we use some outside design resources, like Rive Hanso did the Epic Spell War, and then Matt is actually the one who is in charge of that group and then works with me to make sure that we're happy with what we end up with. Matt also designs a bunch of our board games. Matt Hyra is like, I said it in another interview, Matt is actually one of a series of clones. He has them all at home, and that's how he's able to do as much work as he does. He goes home and tells all the clones what to work on, and so he's able to put out about 10 people's worth of work, it seems like, and masterfully. He's an incredible game designer. And so, but he is focused on the board games. Then my Hex team is focused on Hex. But that said, they've all interacted with each other. Like Ben Stoll, you saw him on the Twitch stream the other day. He made Word Whimsy, one of our little casual card games that like a fun little party game. And Ben actually did the Big Bang Theory party game. So they all sort of work on everything at times, but their focus is their whatever they're assigned. So like the Hex team's focus is Hex. Chris Wood, like we're doing the Street Fighter deck building game, and Chris Woods actually was one of the people who came up with some of the cool core engine changes that make Street Fighter deck building different than our other deck building games. So everyone gets to work on everything to an extent, but they have their primary tasks.
And one other question. So the Penny Arcade, like the iOS game, and like the Food Fight iOS game, those were made in-house by Cryptozoic, right?
No, they were made by a company called Playdeck, and that was really early on for us. Playdeck, some great guys came to us. I think they had gone to a lot of board gaming companies at the time and snapped up a lot of licenses to put them on to iOS. Because at the time, we didn't really have any digital plans. And so somebody came and said, hey, we'll give you a share of the revenue, and we want to make your cool little card game into a digital game. And so we thought, sounds cool to us. And so they made them into some pretty good little iOS games. Like I play a ton of Food Fight and Penny Arcade. Like when I'm sitting somewhere and I want to jump onto my phone and play a quick game, I'll often play both of those. Like as frequently as yesterday, I was playing Food Fight against the AI.
Dude,
This is really the first time you're getting into actually making a digital version of your products, really.
Right.
Wow. Lofty goals, man.
Yeah. Sometimes you gotta put it out there.
you gotta.
I wish you nothing but
yourself-
luck. Seriously, you're entering the gaming industry. Like, it's not doing so well, if you've noticed. There, and you guys have already had a good start with your Kickstarter.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't really. I mean, this wasn't. The primary thing for this was, we want to be successful because I'd like everyone here to be employed and be happy. But this was more about what do we want to make? What are we passionate about? What are we fans of? And this is where this sort of invention came from, was a deep desire to play this game and have digital games be part of what we do too. Like I said, like we were making a comic book because one of my partners, John Nee, was actually started Wildstorm with Jim Lee before it got sold to DC Comics. So I mean, we have these interesting people working here and they have interesting backgrounds, and so it's exciting to try and do just lots of different fun stuff.
Dude. Man, you totally took me off track, Bobby. I had another question. Going back, well, actually, this is about Kickstarter. Like, and like what Bobby said about the game industry not being super extreme, it seems like Kickstarter is kind of taking games in a new direction where people are paying to get the games made that they actually want to play. Like, what do you think of like the whole Kickstarter culture right now, and especially with gaming?
Yeah, well, for me to say I love it is pretty. Of course you love it. You just launched a Kickstarter that made $2 million, right? Like a ridiculous. But even before that, like I've backed about 16 things. I think I'm a big fan of persistence of character, the idea of singular vision, and I think one of the things that you have in collaborative art that potentially becomes problematic is that you lose the idea of singular vision or singular narrative, right? It's like one person has an idea for something and they're passionate about it. And that's what I said about Tim Schafer. And so much enthusiasm and vision and passion, but then once it becomes all of the dozens or hundreds of people necessary to make that game a reality, including business people and marketing people, that often it can become sort of a consensus exercise, and that to me is a place where you lose a lot of beautiful storytelling and a lot of beautiful creative, and you get things that are more specifically narrative that keep it, like writers, the novels, they get to be singular vision, which is such an amazing thing. And for industries that haven't had that chance, whether that's video games or even just, I love the technology button on Kickstarter, all the different crazy inventions, like a phosphorescent plant that will light your, like night lights for your house that are plants. The fact that people can go directly to consumers and get the funding to make some crazy vision a reality is the best possible future. All of these barriers to entry are going away. It used to be publishers controlled everything because they had the money to decide if you were going to have access to an audience. Then all of a sudden you could go directly to an audience with something like this. Now you can have it directly. You don't have to go through a TV show. You get to talk directly to the consumer. So your media was consumable directly. Now Kickstarter gave the opportunity for the financing to actually make something to be directly consumed as available. This is the best possible future for creative people. And that's why I love Kickstarter. And I think Kickstarter fatigue is ridiculous. I do not believe there'll be Kickstarter fatigue. I believe that Kickstarter, the first rule of product development is always find a need and fill it. And so if there are people willing to be, adventurous and creative and come up with something that other people need, and then they can get in front of them through Kickstarter, they will find funding. And so, yeah, I love Kickstarter, clearly.
With it TV wants to know, what do Hex and Hearthstone mean for the future of the WoW trading card game? Will it continue